Hello and welcome to Dinis Guarda, Cities ABC and Open Business Council series. We are a fast-growing YouTube and podcast thought leadership channel focused on profiling the global leading inspiring people, CEOs, authors, technologists, academics, and people that are framing and creating a new vision for our world, and especially looking at solutions, how we can actually get better results for the problems that we are facing. In this channel, we've been actually highlighting ideas, products, inventions, software, books, and solutions to the multiple challenges and opportunities we face in our cities and our society. But we face especially, and we actually profile special people that are inspiring, people that are doing fantastic projects, and people that are trying to transform our world, with all the areas and all the challenge from fourth industrial revolution to blockchain, AI, and all the frontier technologies that are disrupting and as well accelerating our evolution as humanity. These podcast series are produced and distributed on citiesabc.com and openbusinesscouncil.org and syndicated on intelligenthq.com, fashionabc.org, edgefink.com, and tradersdirect.com, our associate partners and as well media platforms. Today we have, I'm excited with the person that we're going to be profiling. So we have Linda Goetze. I try to use the American and a bit of Spanish pronunciation.
Goetze is okay.
Yeah, Goetze, I prefer the Goetze from the origin, but I understand the American Goetze, it's okay as well. So Linda is a global thought leader and as well an expert in technology, especially in the areas of blockchain, but as well digital transformation. She's the co-founder and the executive vice president of DFM Data Corp, and she's the former president and CEO of the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce, which is one of the leading university organizations that she has been leading. She's a leading global recognized authority in emerging technologies, a thought leader, an educator, an international keynote speaker, and as well an ethical investor. And I love especially one of the things she mentioned in her profile, she's leading to serve, which I think it's very important in our leadership people worldwide. She's as well a person that comes with a high profile background in the areas, of course, of blockchain. I've been leading the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce, but as well all the areas of distributed ledger technology, and as well, of course, crypto and digital currencies and all the things that came out of that. And she's been one of the global ambassadors in terms of creating solutions and in terms of making both individuals and business enter into the crypto age, and as well how to look at that with confidence, but as well with caution. And as well, one of the things I like particularly in terms of the work she's been doing is looking at a universal frameworks of things that can reshape the global commerce and communities. One of the things as well, she's an inspiring personality that has been looking at connecting founders, developers, business builders, innovators, and as well looking at the positive side of all these technologies, but as well all these institutions and organizations. And as well, one of the areas of expertise is building global ecosystems and tools to facilitate the adoption of all these emerging technologies, and as well make them work in our work and life. And she's as well a high-profile thought leader that has been highlighting a lot of solutions in terms of supply chain verticals, and as well how to integrate these especially ecosystems into the world we live in and society. I could say much more things, but I'll try to synthesize this. So welcome to our series, Linda. I'm very excited to talk with you today.
Thank you, Dinis. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here. I was thinking through, how fast the years have gone since 2012 when I first engaged with Bitcoin, and it's been an explosion of innovation, and the technology has had leaps and bounds, and it's also had some low points. I actually got called the voice of reason in the blockchain swamp. So you can imagine there's some people that think that there's definitely a bit of a swamp there, and there has been, unfortunately, a number of projects and individuals that have taken advantage of the hype cycle. And interestingly, we're engaging at the beginning of another adoption cycle right now. And you have to be cautious, and you have to connect with people that truly do have the right core intent. And in part, that's why it's such a pleasure to be connecting with you and what you're doing. I see you as an individual and as leading an organization that's seeking to bring high quality content and connect people to individuals that are doing the right thing in this emerging tech space. So thank you for that, and very happy to be here today.
My pleasure and my honor. So one of the things as well that I didn't mention, but I want to as well highlight today. So you are an advocate, fundraiser, and contributed to the Bloom in the Dark. That is a more creative and social impact platform, which I want to touch as well. So that is as well part of your work, and I just want to highlight that in the beginning. So Linda, as a starting point, so you've been having, like you mentioned, a huge role in the global blockchain maturity community, but as well you have a huge background in technology. So I would like, being a lady that has been doing a lot of different positions and as well in technology, which normally is a man-driven world. So I would like to start a bit, how do you end up actually in this role, especially in blockchain that is, and actually crypto. Crypto is even more male than actually blockchain. Blockchain is a bit more gender balanced, but if you go to crypto, it's a bit sometimes a kind of a West, I would say the Wild West in a lot of ways. Now it's becoming a bit of the mainstream West, but let's go through a bit of that background. I would like to start, how do you, background, education, do you have a fantastic as well background? I would like to hear from you.
Yeah, and interestingly, my background started in education and science education. So in the STEAM space, girls historically have started off strong young, and then as they've progressed, you just haven't seen as many girls actually going into business roles in technology. And so you're absolutely right. I've been in in a man's world a little bit, and trying to help shape it so that women feel welcome and women feel that there's an opportunity to educate themselves and engage and find roles where they can be innovators and change makers and bring a perspective that is unique. There's many gender allocations that exist today. So I hate to pinpoint areas of difference, but I think saying that there are unique perspectives that different individuals bring because of their experience base, it's very, very key to have that be part of the conversation. And there's statistics that show that companies that have women in leadership and people with different ethnicities and backgrounds of diversity, they're showing better financial outcomes. So it really is important for us to continue shaping this space, this emerging tech space, in a way that women feel welcome and feel like there's a place at the table and that they can step into engaging truly in making a difference, and not feeling like they're marginalized or ignored or not seen as being able to have positive input. So thank you for highlighting the gender inequality that still exists, because it does. And that's something that have definitely been working together. There's organizations like HERA that are bringing a lot of tech-savvy women together to help build a smart city that is engineered with women's thought process baked into the whole organization, location, the dynamics of what living could entail. It's going to be very interesting to see what their outcome is and what that city looks like. It would be wonderful if it could be a model for working together with nature and technology to really bring the best of those pieces together. So yeah, lots of fun things happening. And like I said, my engagement truly with blockchain technology began in 2012. And so much has happened since then. I mean, everything from smart contracts and, different, we could talk about, central bank digital currencies, where that's going. There's just a tremendous impact zone. And at the Chamber, Blockchain Chamber of Commerce, we actually designated 12 different verticals to focus on because it's such a huge point of impact, right? And obviously, supply chain is a big one. Fintech. Some people think about blockchain and they just think Bitcoin, but if you look at the financial services vertical, Bitcoin is one of the cryptocurrencies that is just part of that financial tech sector. Very, very small. I mean, DeFi has gotten huge lately. There's a lot of interesting positives and pain points there that I don't know if you'll want to get into later or not, but we do have a tremendous responsibility as this technology grows and becomes part of more and more people's daily lives to really make sure that it's adopted responsibly. So that's a lot of what I've been focused on in those 12 verticals that I mentioned. We actually focused once a month on a different vertical to just try to highlight, not only show the community to itself, but to others, where the impact zones were, what things were really being done, in things like agriculture supply chain. There's, you can't eat code, but we all need to eat something, right? So there's so many points of connectivity that we can help people understand the value of the technology and get more people involved moving forward. So it's definitely an education process.
Coming back to your background, because I think it's important for people listening to us, and especially someone in the leadership positions that have been taking. So you were brought up and educated in multiple places around the world, and you have a quite unconventional cultural mix that makes, I think, you very open to a lot of different cultures, different things. I want to touch that because I think especially in leadership, people sometimes forget that and the power that this brings for organizations. You mentioned gender, but as well the multiculturalism, and as well how to do this not in just a cliche way, but as well the reality, which is most difficult, and as well how this is important then for technology. So I would like to touch that part before go more in deep, and I have questions about the 12 verticals and things like that, but I will go after.
Like I said, we all come from different perspectives, and my perspective got built by parents who started their family in Ghana, where my oldest sister was born. So I have a Guyanese oldest sister, and she's actually married to a Peruvian. My parents ended up spending 8 years in Peru, and Español is mi primera lengua. So I actually had my first 4 years in the jungles of Peru. And just one of those, it shapes your perspective when you're running through the jungles barefoot with, children where my hair was white. I was super white blonde, blue eyes, and the native children, dark hair, dark skin. But when someone falls and scrapes their knee, you see that we're all bleeding red, right? There's that awareness that we're connected, and it doesn't matter what skin color is, what hair color is, what eye color is. I just got raised with that feeling of connectedness to people. And, I've gotten to live in a number of different places for Mexico, up in Canada, Alaska, around the country here in the United States. And I've always just enjoyed and I know some people don't like the term melting pot, but the opportunity to connect with so many people of different ethnicities in the same country is a really unique thing in the world that we have here in the United States that I've gotten to enjoy. But then knowing that all of those differences come from different places globally, right? That there's a reason that somebody's, and you can use a tartan as an exemplar, or I'm Danish, English, Scotch, Irish. So, I have some roots there. Love golf. I don't know if that's, built into my genetic code or not, but really enjoy it. And but there's different saris or tribal cloth that communicates something. It gives meaning. It gives connectivity. And there's different blockchains that communicate and give connectivity and have communities built around them. And I think it's just been interesting to take how I was raised and the perspective that my parents had towards all of our connectivity, and just seeing how the emerging technology that we have in blockchain is kind of building this fabric globally in a very unique way that allows for inputs, but shows that this interweaving is it's a global fabric. It's not, and I'm not saying that to put Hyperledger Fabric or anything like that out there as the blockchain. I wasn't using fabric in that way, but just to the analogy of the cloth that's woven that shows where we come from, but also can bring us together uniquely. It's a Yeah, I thank you for mentioning that. I think sometimes we get too much into techno talk, and we forget that it's really human beings that are the reason why this technology is so important, and how we can work to bring opportunity to people globally, not just to any specific ethnicity or any specific country, but to human beings. That is critical in this adoption cycle.
No, fantastic. And I completely, for me, this is more important than ever, because running any company internationally, or actually nationally and internationally, you have to deal with a lot of different cultures. And I think any business needs to bridge between these different cultures, different ways of approaching the world. And especially right now, programming technology is becoming more and more about how to bring to technology these different parts of culture. That's what makes it different from the machine. So I would like to, from your career, you start with multiple different areas. So from your master to your initial CIO of the blockchain chamber, to become CEO and leading and making it one of the biggest organizations in the especially solidifying the maturity of blockchain internationally. So could you tell us a bit that career, some of the highlights that you have, and how did you start as well with the blockchain chamber of commerce?
Yeah, that's a fun story. And my background in education, I got my master's actually in special education. I have several family members that had special needs, and I'm an educator at heart. So when you're touched personally, you go and say, how can I be better to help those that I love? And so that's what incentivized my master's. And I taught for a number of years, and then I had a close family member, my father-in-law, was diagnosed with Lewy bodies dementia, and that's like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's combined. It's an awful disease. But what it did is it gave us the opportunity to take 3.5 years to help give care as he went through the final years of life, and got to spend some wonderful time with him out on the golf course. He loved it. Actually raised 2 kids in golf. My sister-in-law won the USAM twice. My husband was a winner on the Canadian tour. Just steeped in golf. He loved it, and so I have a lot of positive memories of our time together. But that 3.5 years was probably some of the most wonderful and challenging time that I've ever had in my life. And following that, it was just a time to I guess heal is the best word, just to get recentered and say what's important. I did have the positive outcome since my husband and I had engaged in purchasing Bitcoin back in 2012, to be able to make a choice as to what I did with my future. I didn't have to go get a job, back in the teaching field, or manage things in that regard. But I took a step back, and it's like, what do I love? What brings me joy? What am I excited to engage in right now? And obviously this was, well, not obviously, it was 2017. time frame, and I started connecting with the blockchain community, and going to events, and just getting a real feel for where things were. And one of the events that I attended in Atlanta, Georgia, was one of the very first events of the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce. And, this was right at the beginning of 2018. The hype cycle was in full swing, Bitcoin was near all-time highs. And, during the event, they had people raise their hands, how long have you owned cryptocurrency of any kind? And, 1 month, just about everybody in the room has their hands up, 3 months, hands start going down. They got to 3 years, there's no hands but mine. They got to 5 years, and, people are starting to stare at me like, oh my God. And I'm looking going like, I didn't know this was like not, I didn't know that I was an early adopter. I didn't know that the process that I had gone through, which was weird. And I mean, I'm so thankful, let's put it that way, that the ability to purchase Bitcoin today is so much more streamlined than what it was back in 2012. It was not a comfortable process, and you have people looking at you like you're a criminal, and you mentioned to anybody that you diversified into Bitcoin, and they're like, "What? Do you do drugs?" It's like, no, this is something that it's a new technology. This is like a store of value. This is a potential chaos hedge. It's a uncorrelated diversification for my portfolio. Like, this makes sense. And, people back then, it was like, my husband just told me to shut up, just don't talk about it, because they're not wanting to listen. They're not ready to listen, and, just let it be. Right. So that's kind of where I'd come from. And now I'm in this room of people that are looking at me like I'm, some kind of, OG, like and I didn't even know what OG was. I didn't know that was like the old guard, the terminology. I hadn't really, steeped myself in the community. I'd been 3.5 years of just, flat survival mode, trying to support the health and wellness of people I loved. And, so yeah, that was my first introduction into the chamber. And obviously the founding team, came and was talking to me afterwards, asked me if I'd participate on a panel, and then if I'd be in a debate. And the debate was really interesting because we had no regulations versus what I turned into smart regulations. And so I debated on the side of smart regulations. And I'm happy to report that smart regulations won the debate by a very, very slim margin, because there were quite a number of Bitcoin maximalists in the room. But it's just a progression since then. As CIO, working to help bring the social mandate of the chamber forward, which is raising awareness, facilitating adoption, and inspiring advocacy. And that's for commerce, consumers, people building careers in and around blockchain. That was what I got to do. And I guess it was obvious that I loved it, that I was passionate about it, that I was just, continually engaging not only the core team and, the people that attended our events in Atlanta, but globally, reaching out, connecting with thought leaders, building collaborative relationships that, brought benefits to our members. It's just, I loved it. And so I was asked to step into the role of CEO. And if the camera's moving a little bit, I've got a bit of a breeze out here on the golf course. So my apologies for that.
No, the sound is perfect. There's no issues. It doesn't.
Okay.
Although we would like to have the brief, the breeze.
It just feels so wonderful out here. I'm very happy that you're just open to have a relaxed atmosphere for this chat. So yeah, it's been a progression. And do you want me to get into my transition story at all, or is
yes,
that,
I would like to actually let me ask you one question, because the story is fantastic. But so being one of the early adopters, let's put it that way, especially in Bitcoin, because let's say when you start in 2012, so Bitcoin started in 2008. So it was really in 2008, it was the paper. So I remember I started getting into Bitcoin as well in 2011, 2012, and I understood that at the time, if you would be on that, you can get in serious trouble, especially if you were in financial industry or in any business mainstream. You could not even mention because you could. I remember I had actually right now he's a very high profile person in the financial industry worldwide, but he told me, don't mention to anyone that you are working or at least doing something in Bitcoin. And I remember that a colleague of mine that was, he actually worked with the major banks and he was told not to go to the banks after start working for an organization in English. So I would like to hear that background, because especially coming from education, you didn't come from technology or any kind of more cyberpunk organization, which is normal, the people that were the first ones, or at least more trading crazy. So a bit of that background. How did you start really using Bitcoin? I think that's interesting for all our audience worldwide.
Yeah, no, it was one of those things where I was at my parents' house, and I have one of those interesting, you know, my mom, she's 83, you know, very, very dignified woman. She has a home office setup, and we're talking like 4 big screens, you know, what you would imagine seeing in, you know, some type of corporate tech, you know, location. And so it's kind of funny because I was, I don't know what I was looking at, something on their computers, and this pop-up came, and it was a Bitcoin faucet, and it was just saying, you know, you can play this game, and you know, download a wallet, and you'll get this Bitcoin drip, you know, like every 10 minutes you get this Bitcoin for playing this game. And I hadn't seen anything about Bitcoin. I didn't know anything about Bitcoin, and this faucet thing popped up. And I wish I had been a gamer, because if I had downloaded the wallet and started gaming, and it's like getting like 0.1 Bitcoin every 10 minutes or something. I mean, it was ridiculous if you look at today's price of Bitcoin. But you know, then it wasn't any kind of, you know, it was like, you know, pennies to what it is today. But I didn't download the game. I'm not a gamer, but I started going, what is this? You know, what is this Bitcoin? And then just started looking into it, and saw some of the price action, and you know, heard some people talking about, you know, it was a conduit for free speech. You know, there's just a lot of interesting people in the space, and I was just kind of catching different things, but I'm like, there's something to this, right? There's a value here that I don't yet have, and I want to have it. And so that was, I went to my husband and was like, you know, we need to buy this. And his background was in finance, and he was like, no. You know, this, like, you know, internet funny money. This is not, you know, like, what kind of sane person goes and, you know, buys this thing? What is it? Right. So I had to do my research to be able to answer his questions. And that's when I got to the, you know, it's an uncorrelated asset, you know, it's a diversification, you know, and the numbers since then have actually proved that if you have, I think it's about 1 to 3% of your portfolio in Bitcoin specifically, that it reduces the overall volatility of your portfolio as a whole. So, you know, I didn't have the numbers to totally back that up at the time, but I had enough eventually. I think it was the 3rd time I went to my husband to convince him that yes, indeed, we should purchase Bitcoin. Yes, indeed, this should be part of our portfolio. And, you know, the process then, like, for real, we were going to the bank where, you know, they write down your name and get your social, and, you know, make you feel like a criminal for withdrawing cash, like your money, right? Your cash. When you withdraw it, they make you feel like a criminal. And then you had to take it to I think it was a Walgreens that had a certain type of ATM in the back. We had, you know, to download a sheet of directions, give that to the clerk along with your cash, and, you know, have everyone in the line behind you look at you funny, you know, be going like, we've never seen something like this before. You know, what is she doing with all this, you know, this cash. And then the clerk, you know, takes it, counts it, and then hands you a little, it's like a little ticket. And then you go back to the ATM and you end up with this string of letters and numbers that when you go back and, you know, get your computer running up, it literally, I remember we had the Bitcoin blockchain running on a laptop, you know, and it just was like grinding and grinding and grinding, trying to, you know, catch up with the blockchain since the last time we had updated. And, you know, you had to have faith that somehow the value that you had taken out of the bank, you know, in real cash that you could touch and feel was somehow now translated into this private key, this representation of your Bitcoin. And yeah, it was an uncomfortable, kind of like, am I making a mistake? You know, am I just crazy? Is this gonna like poof, disappear? And then like one of my nephews, who was a Georgia Tech graduate, super smart kid, you know, into tech, I talked to him about Bitcoin. He goes and buys some, but he had it on Mount Gox. And everybody knows what happened with Mount Gox, right? So now I'm the aunt that's responsible for, you know, educating a nephew that goes and loses money in this, you know, this scheme, this internet funny money scheme. So you can imagine there were definitely ups and downs in family perspective. And, you know, I mean, to the point that, you know, just recently one of my nephews was having a birthday, and I was like, hey, do you have a Bitcoin wallet? I'd love to send you some Satoshis for your birthday. And he's like, why would I want worthless money or worthless? Why would I want something that's worthless? I think that's exactly what he said. Why would I want something that's worthless? And I'm like, you know what? You have to pick your battles. And, you know, I can put aside for him what I would have given him that day. And, you know, maybe when it's at 250,000 a Bitcoin, he'll, you know, say, hey, Tia, you know, I realized that, you know.
Oh, no, probably.
Maybe, maybe. I don't know. But, you know, it's a progression of adoption, and you can't push anybody past the point that they're ready to, you know, take that step, right? You know, maybe when there's a forced adoption of central bank digital currencies, everybody has to have a digital wallet. There'll maybe be a bit of a forced adoption. But you hope that people would be aware prior to that this is a technological advancement that is happening, and that there's different stores of value rather than what's been the traditional. You know, obviously gold and silver, traditional store of value. I don't know anybody who's, you know, crossed a border with, you know, 5 gold bars and hasn't had an issue, right? But you can, you know, much more seamlessly transfer digital value. And it's just a convenience, it's a different way of doing business that's enabled by cryptocurrencies. And so I think we're going to continue to see the adoption. And I just got to experience it at a much more awkward stage a long time ago, and, you know, acclimate myself, you know, a little bit more than maybe some people have. And here we are entering into another time frame where, you know, it's kind of funny, because when in 2017, 2018, Bitcoin was at its current price action, it was on every screen. Like, you know, you had the ticker and everybody was talking about it in the news. And now it's very, very understated, you know, news coverage. It's been very limited comparatively. And we've just seen the price action, I think, in large part because of institutional engagement. And this adoption cycle is going to be very interesting when the FOMO, or the fear of missing out, comes back in to, if it does at any of the level that it did in 2017, it should be a very, very interesting time to watch and learn from the way people behave. Fear is a really interesting motivator, and I did a talk actually in Dubai about fear of the unknown and fear of missing out. And my hope, my positive expectation is that it will truly be education that can be responsible for the real mass adoption cycle, and not just fear of the unknown keeping people out, and then fear of missing out being the only driver that pushes them into engaging. I would really prefer it to be in a much safer way, where they're actually educating themselves, learning about the value add, understanding how to safely manage wallets, what to do to benefit from this cycle, rather than being, kind of taken by surprise and, shocked that this is the way the world does business now. I think that's where we're headed, but.
So I think the story is fantastic, and as well all the background, because it goes through history of Bitcoin. So from Bitcoin, you went to blockchain, and you ended up actually CEO of one of the biggest organizations in the world in blockchain. So you have all this education, but you have as well a practical research part, which is very important when you get into a technology like this. So how do you went from collecting and starting to get into Bitcoin to then end up actually leading one of the biggest organizations in blockchain? And can you tell us a bit of the highlight? What is, even for the people that never heard about the Chamber of Commerce of blockchain, or Chamber of blockchain?
The blockchain Chamber of Commerce. Yeah.
Platform, which is massive, but as well the blockchain Chamber of Commerce, sorry. So how do you highlight that as well, and as well just that experience and that trajectory as well? I think it's quite interesting right now.
Yeah, now the facilitating adoption part of this is really where the hard work is. It's the vetting of the companies. It's and you're probably, many watching will probably be familiar with the ICO craze. And then the STOs, and just the progressions that have been taken. And the purpose of the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce is to provide a safe place for the community to be able to connect and collaborate and do business. And that's from blockchain developers and companies that are working to integrate blockchain into their internal business practices, to people that are exercising the global adoption of this through building exchanges. And there's a lot of different ways that the community has connected with this technology, but there've been bad actors. And one of the most challenging parts of what I got to do at the chamber was go through vetting process of companies that were wanting to connect, become members, be recommended into business with other members. And we found that there were some that they really didn't have the best interests of the community at heart. They were doing business in a way that was not sustainable and would not bring the value add that their white paper stated that their blockchain project would have. And so it was really kind of wading into the swamp. After I finished that 3.5 years of caregiving, it was almost like I was stepping into caregiving for an ecosystem that was trying to sort out, globally what the regulations were, and were trying to avoid what regulations they could, and finding that balance, really sussing out who the good players were, who were the people that were in the ecosystem for the right reasons, and then helping facilitate commerce between them. Making the world better together was really the driving purpose. In part, that's brought me to where I am right now. And as you introduced me, you said that I was the former president and CEO of the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce, and It's former, because I made the choice to step down from my role. And I had one of those moments where I just realized I wanted to do what brought me joy. And I'd had a conversation with the chairman of the board about the role and responsibility, the job of the president and the CEO, and the going and getting memberships and getting donations and bringing in dollars. That wasn't what really brought me joy in regard to the chamber. It really brought me joy to facilitate adoption, to connect companies that were innovators in their field and that could support each other's work, and really, it was doing the social mandate that brought me joy. And I've had the pleasure since I resigned to help bring together what I think is going to be a really strong leadership team for the chamber going forward, so that it is people that are in that role for the right reasons, but it's what brings them joy. I get to work with DFM Data Corp, which is a company that I've just been, I feel very blessed and fortunate to be able to connect with phenomenal minds. That was probably one of the biggest value adds in my time at the chamber. Was the human beings, the people that I got to connect with. And Michael Darden is one of those people that he came into the chamber. I was introduced to him by our CIO at the time, John, and he'd seen me at an event and heard me speak and asked some questions, and just kind of mentioned that he was wanting to connect more in the blockchain space. And so our CIO made the introductions, and Michael came into our boardroom, and we had a big old whiteboard across the entire side of the room, and he laid out how he was going to positively impact the dynamic freight matching industry using a patent that he wrote in 2004 or 3. It was, anyway, early 2000s. He wrote a patent with 37 claims that define dynamic freight matching. So this is the Uber Freights of the world. This is the move of driver tractor trailer load, connected to GPS and to rating systems, and just facilitating that digital supply chain transaction flow. That's what his patent described. And the crazy thing is Michael didn't own that patent for years. It was owned by the company that he worked for at the time that he wrote it. And he came to the chamber right as he was beginning the process of buying that patent back from a company that didn't realize truly what they had. And as the writer of it, he understood what it defined, and his goal and our focus at DFM Data Corp is to help bring together the industry. And to me, he was so prescient in his thought process, in how he understood not only this dynamic freight matching, but what impact there might be as not just one company, but maybe dozens or even hundreds of companies started doing dynamic freight matching. And DFM Data Corp holds 4 of the claims of the patent that allow for the cleansing of what's called it's phantom data, but it's data that is populated onto multiple boards. Maybe it's a driver's availability, maybe it's a load. And once that driver or that load is picked up off of one of the boards, there's nothing that takes them off all the other ones. And it's still looking like it's an available load or an available driver, and people are bidding on it, trying to, get that, in their ingestion engine. It's no longer available. So it creates this frustration that costs the industry money, like real people's time, trying to resolve, that load's already been, picked up. But Michael saw that pain point coming and actually designed its solution on the front end. So DFM Data is a utility that's going to bring that solution to the now probably 200 plus dynamic freight matching companies in the United States. And this is a problem that doesn't just exist in the United States. We've talked to teams in Germany that they have about 200 plus companies that are, beginning to see the same phantom data problem because they have expanded, and there's different niche marketplaces, but that are being populated with some of the same loads and same drivers, and they need to resolve it as well. And any contiguous landmass, I see that there's going to be an opportunity for the solution that DFM Data is working on. And we're also addressing it with really strong governance so that there is trust, not only in the technology, but in people's ability to participate in what happens to that collective utility that we believe truly should belong to the DFMs themselves. And so that's been a fun progress, working with real thought leader, not just thought leaders, but like the history of a couple of our core on the governance side of things. John Greaves, phenomenal gentleman. He's on 20 different standards groups. He chairs 10 of them. I'm talking like GS1, IEEE. We also have Dr. Dinis McCurdy, who just got her doctorate in supply chain governance, specifically around blockchain. So it's probably one of the only doctorates in the world that's been issued in that specialty, and she's leading our governance efforts. So we're working at it in a way that we believe is going to be really positive for the true adoption of blockchain technology in supply chain, specifically bringing about what we see as many of the real benefits. Not only are drivers going to be, more conveniently connected to loads, but we're going to see hopefully at least 30% reduction in carbon emissions from empty trucks. So, this is good for the environment. It's good for the existing DFMs, those dynamic freight matching companies, and also for the more traditional supply chain management companies and carriers and brokers that need to transition. Right. So it's anywhere between 3 to 30% of the market in the US has transitioned to dynamic freight matching, depending on whose numbers you look at and what you believe about what people are telling you about how they're internally managing their business. But it's a huge place for growth and for true technology adoption to occur. And that's what brings me joy. So I get to help facilitate adoption and do it in an impact zone that, with COVID, we're really seeing the need for fluid supply chains and visibility into supply chains. This technology can help provide that.
So you mentioned the 12 verticals. Do you want to highlight a bit that? Because I think it's interesting, because there's different, you touched already, of course, supply chain, finance, and some other areas, but the 12 verticals, how do you define that? Because I think it's quite interesting. And as well, being an educator, I'm particular, because there's so much ways of looking at blockchain and a lot of myths as well, like you touched that previously.
Yeah, the best way to address that is to direct people to the blockchain ecosystem.io platform. And that's where you can see them laid out. This is a platform that has some really neat opportunities to engage in a social media type of way with other people that are engaged in your vertical. It's not something that we've gone out and done any advertising around or really tried to commercialize, but it's something that is a tool that, as the two co-CEOs that are stepping into my shoes will be, using as part of their go-to-market continuing forward. It's just a really neat platform, and it has the verticals listed. It allows people to self-designate into different verticals. There's a Q&A function that, if you ask a question, someone can respond with like a little 30-second video clip. Just some neat ways to collaborate, communicate, answer questions, ask questions, and find people that you can do business with, that are either interested in your space and can support your efforts, or vice versa. And yeah, and you'll see, like, education and different ones. They're
Yeah,
all...
I'm there right now as we speak. So we have distribution, energy, government, hospitality and travel, members, services, communication, care, manufacturing, real estate, and technology. So it's quite interesting. So I just want to touch that, and thank you for that, because it's sometimes it's always good to highlight, because I've been trying to summarize this for my students and for a lot of people I've been talking. Actually, I did recently a film about the convergence between blockchain and AI, and there's a lot of things. So this brings me to you presently are in a transition, and you are doing a couple of big things. Do you want to touch a bit on what you're doing right now in terms of the work and your present, what you're doing right now?
Yeah, no, like I mentioned, making that transition to being sure that I'm engaged in what I truly love and enjoy has brought me. Actually, when I resigned my role at the chamber, I got 4 job offers within 24 hours, and one of them was with DFM Data Corp. Obviously, that's one that I've stepped into, strongly as executive vice president. I was in one of the early. Well, I was the first investor in the company, and I see its impact for for supply chain, not just in the U.S. but globally, as being something that's really impactful, and something I want to be a part of. So there is that, and that's pretty much a full-time job in itself. One of the other members that I had the pleasure to work with while I was leading the chamber was, I don't know if you want me to go into that story. It probably is a little bit of a 10 minutes. I want to respect the time that you've allocated here. So is that something that...
Well, if you can summarize, it would be good. We still have around 20 minutes or 22. So I would like to hear, perfect. Because I think it's all about stories, at least. Yeah.
Well, it's the stories of life, right? That all put together equal perspective, and so yeah, Charlie Northrup is the member that I was talking about. He saw the internet when it was just in between professors. So one of his buddies was at the University of Illinois, and so Charlie sees this, back and forth with research, being sent. And he said, that's going to be commercialized. And his buddy laughs at him. Charlie went and wrote 10 patents that defined e-commerce. So if you think about how business is transacted, globally today, Charlie envisioned that. And I got to sit at the table with him. It was February of this year. We had lunch with the guys who actually brokered the sale of that patent stack. And they asked him if they'd told him about the email that they had framed on their office wall. And Charlie's, he looks puzzled. He doesn't know what they're talking about. And the guy who was on the winning side of the bidding forwarded us the email that he got from the guy that was his money guy. And he was requesting how much higher he could bid. And the email came back, whatever it takes, and it was signed Bill Gates. So Charlie, he's hearing this for the first time, like 13 years after, this patent sale occurred. And, you can tell he's pretty, he's like, kind of pumped. You're like, that's awesome. Bill Gates valued my work that highly. But then he said, my current technology stack, my current patent stack will dwarf that one. And when I first heard it, I didn't really grasp why he was saying that. And it's been a progression over the past months where I've really gotten an understanding and actually gotten to participate in part of that development and fleshing out of not just what the tech stack is, but the why of the tech stack. And the way the web was designed was not with our agency in mind, like humans. It didn't even give us state in the first iterations. When you, I mean, still, when you log in, you know, you're putting in a username and password, you're going into somebody else's site, right? And you click yes on cookies, you click yes on terms and conditions, and next thing you know, someone else owns your digital footprint. And, you know, although there's GDPR and you have the right to be forgotten, and you can, you know, force someone to go into their system and, you know, delete all of your information, you can't force them to go into their system and remit to you all of the actions that you took while you were in their space, right? And so we lose our digital footprint. And that shouldn't be. I mean, there's technology that exists today that would enable us to manage, to own, to be able to monetize our own digital footprint. And why should we not do that? You know, why should it be the behemoths that have, you know, taken advantage of the way the tech has been structured to this point to monetize it, right? On their behalf, not on our behalf. We've gotten a free service, and we have truly been the product. Our data has been the product. And we're just starting to have countries that are recognizing that their true national treasure is not the gold or silver, or maybe even the Bitcoin that they've purchased. It's the data of their people, that truly is the most important thing that they should protect. And we're in a transitional time, I believe, where technology like what Charlie has created is going to be key in giving us as human beings digital agency. And I say digital agency because Charlie has put together the beginning of his tech stack is pure random data drawn from nature. Okay, so imagine that data gets put into a multidimensional holographic QR code that can be queried by any cell phone's camera, right? So just about anybody in the world could utilize that technology. But it would take someone with at least $250,000 machine to try to duplicate even one of those QR codes. So much more secure than RFIDs, because it can't be externally queried unless you present it, right? RFID chips, you know, people can just walk by you with an RFID reader. They can pull data off you. You don't even know they did it. That isn't possible with this multidimensional holographic code. So you have that genesis point. It can be taken and combined with a personal secret that allows for a multi-key to be produced. And this multi-key has, and I may, this number is huge, but I think it's 2 to the 512th times 2 to the 512th possible public-private key pairings that are enabled by this multi-key. So if you think about the atoms in the known universe, that number, I think, is about 7 times the number of atoms that we know exist in the universe, not just the world, but the universe as we know it. So it's a little bit of a mind-bendingly huge number. It's as quantum proof as anything that I've heard of. And that multi-key can be managed by a digital agent. And that's another part of Charlie's technology stack is a form of AI that can learn nouns, verbs, and modifiers and put them together to, I mean, if you think about a business process flow, it's, you know, do X with Y upon Z happening, right? You know, it's just these progressions, and the agents can learn these progressions using words, you know, like the word consider. You know, consider these options and apply X possibilities and then make a decision. There's, I don't have time to delve into where the possibilities go with what that AI can achieve just from its learning, but what it can achieve on behalf of human beings in provisioning them into different ecosystems with this multi-key, that enables my digital footprint to belong uniquely to me and be managed uniquely on my behalf. Even in marketplaces, I can sell my data, but my agent can do it on my behalf and in a secure way that isn't able to be hijacked by others. So super secure, deals with some big issues when it comes to GDPR, and globally we've been having just a hodgepodge of privacy legislation that makes it almost impossible for cross-border business in some cases, and we need a resolution for that. And I think Charlie's technology stack is part of that answer, and is going to enable doing business in a very unique and powerful way. And we're looking to bring together a consortia of people who want to see this technology adopted on behalf of human beings, on behalf of people globally, not any specific company or country, but on behalf of people. So that's my, I guess, my side job. My other fun thing is working to bring together the Universal Framework of Things consortia to help connect like-minded individuals to support the responsible adoption of this technology, and technologies that connect with it, that have supporting roles. One of the things with the agents is they treat everything as a thing, right? So a blockchain is simply a thing, and they can learn things. And so we have something that can be future-proof, in that regardless of what new blockchain design is come up with, regardless of what new even political infrastructures are put into place, the agents can learn those new things and can work within the parameters of those new rules uniquely. So it's an interesting time, and it's an interesting tech stack to be engaging with and supporting the responsible adoption of. So, yeah.
Amazing, and a great story. And I think I'm particularly interested to see, and I think that's one of my questions I have here. So you've been an advocate, a global advocate for blockchain and for all the areas of the fourth industrial revolution, but you have a very strong background of both education, firstly, but as well creating bridges between society, business, and technology. So with all this, and I think when I spoke with you offline, you mentioned as well that we're going to pass probably from the fourth revolution to probably the seventh revolution or something like that. I love that expression. So can you elaborate a bit?
Yes.
Yeah, can you elaborate a bit about how do you see blockchain, the fourth industrial revolution, and all the areas of digital transformation? And I think the time, because we are in epicenter time, actually, ironically, in the Bitcoin today is one of the biggest trading days in history of Bitcoin. So it's kind of highlights the day, at least, that we are doing this interview. But I would like to see this, how do you see this bridge? Because it's really the epicenter and frontier technologies. After this, we will really do something, I don't know, we will leapfrog, but definitely can go in one direction or the other.
Yeah, a couple of points there. With just blockchain, you would just kind of eke your way into the fourth industrial revolution. With blockchain and other emerging technologies integrating, I think we leapfrog the fifth and sixth industrial revolutions, and having digital agency is something that I think will be so uniquely empowering for people that it will allow for the transcendence of the individual beyond many of the structures that have held us back in the past. And I don't say that in a way that I think there should be destruction of those structures. It's just that in many cases, they would be unnecessary. It's, banking infrastructure is there, and it may adjust and change over time, but at the same time, it's if people are doing business differently, will those people that are in banking find ways that they can more constructively use their time and talents, rather than just maintaining an old way of doing business? What are the possibilities that will open up, right? This is not about, trying to destroy what has worked in the past, or what has worked in some regards in the past. It's about saying, if we didn't have to worry about, some of these constraints, what's possible for good? What's possible for the environment, for, people being able to manage past just subsistence living? What are the opportunities that are there? And I just see, I see really strong potential positive, and a really possibly scary dystopian future, depending on who is managing the power of that possibility. And that's, I guess, the point that we're at right now is one where we're already seeing the use of blockchain technology specifically, but combined with other emerging technologies, to exercise greater control over people's lives by different entities, whether it's countries or companies. I believe we need to have that control in people's hands to be able to manage their own lives, and to do it in a way that brings a net positive to the communities and countries in which they live. Maybe that's a Pollyannish view. Maybe I have rose-colored glasses, and I believe that there are truly people with good intentions and a positive purpose to serve humanity, and we need to hopefully support their use of these powerful technologies in such a way that it can have the positive outcome that I hope for my children's future. I don't want the dystopian society that is one that they grow up in, worrying about every word that they say, or, what's going to be, changing in their social assessment that will allow them to do or not do, certain things that we currently in the U.S. take for granted as our right as human beings. I think you're right, we're at a bit of a tipping point.
So one of the things that I'm particularly excited about your profile is that you've been always making the bridge with very different areas, from, like we mentioned, business, technology, education, and as well, even areas as different as healthcare, which you have a background as well. But it's really a very strong moment we are in. And I think there was actually a recent paper from the MIT that, and actually a quote that I like to use, that, AI is already changing everything, and this very narrow AI. And of course, we have as well right now, China creating an entire blockchain system for the country, and most of the rest of the world doesn't even disclose. We have the digital currencies for central banks and so forth. So how do you see this, and what would be you mentioned that positive vision, which I share, but how do you see, how can we take this from a theoretical perspective from a practical perspective?
They just look at how things started with apps, right? So you had a rudimentary smartphone that you could download an app on. And I don't know what your first app was, but I remember the little ping-ponging ball, that you could slide the little bar, and it was a fun little game, and a little calculator, and very, very simple things. And as we start in this progression, there's very simple thing applications that our agents can do on our behalf, right? Manage your social in such a way that it is no longer on one of the traditional social platforms, but now is truly yours. Your data, your interaction. We had this was interesting. One of the members of the chamber had something that they had gotten sent, a little video clip they had gotten sent from their mom on Facebook. And she was telling me just how excited she was about, the impact that she had gotten from this video, and how it had made her realize what a powerful tool blockchain was. And so I was like, well, that sounds amazing. I want to watch this. And she's like, oh, let me go forward it to you. And when she went to try to forward it, it had disappeared. And so she called her mom, and her mom was like, mine's gone too. And I've like a whole batch of friends that I sent it to, like they're no longer, available through my profile. Like I can't even find them. And I'm sitting here on the phone with her going, whoa, that shouldn't be. That there's an entity that can choose arbitrarily, possibly based on some algorithm, that a video that a mother sent her daughter should no longer be available to her daughter. Right? I mean, that felt like it was such a private, thing, like something that I, as a mom, felt was important to share with my daughter. And now it's gone. We have to start making the changes in little ways, right? Where we take ownership of our digital footprint, and we start doing life differently. It has to start somewhere, right? It's not going to be a utopia that someone drops down on top of us. It's something that we're going to have to build from the ground up. And if you've ever planted a garden, it's not like you plant it one day and you walk out the next day and there's like beautiful lush tomatoes, and it's just this just lovely meal laid out for you. You got to pick the bugs off. You got to take the time to make sure that the plants are getting the right fertilizer, and that they're getting sufficient sun, and all of those little details. We as responsible human beings are going to have to create the environment for this positive outcome to come forward, for those little thing applications to be built that streamline business processes. And it has to be a collective build. It can't just come from the perspective of one country or one people group. It has to feed in from the needs and the culture of people in very, very different environments and settings. And yeah, it's just going to need to be a growth over time with real people, just building that next real thing that helps make life better for the people that they understand and know and like and love. And, I think as that happens, it's going to be that we're going to see that there are so many similarities between us as people. Yes, there are cultural differences, absolutely. But there's so many things that are just uniquely human, right? That are things that are important to us as people. I've been in airports, and I've heard babies cry and seen grandmas, smile over their grandchildren. And it doesn't matter what country I'm in, it's that same, compassion that goes out. It's that same love in the grandma's eyes. And we just need to facilitate the adoption of these technologies that are so powerful to enable that humanity to continue forward in the most positive possible way.
Yeah, and I think it's very inspiring, and I think that's I think you synthesize everything. But right now is how we can actually get global personalities to go through this and how to make it happen. So I want to thank you for this. I think probably I would want to have a second session just on education. Probably we'll do it within one of the events that we're going to be organizing, and I hope that you're going to be as well, because I think especially in this area of the bridge between this inspiring work you've been doing and as well this energy that you transmit is very important. But as well, it's important to make sure that people are conscious about these tools and how to use it right, because we can be using the tools for a lot of wrong things, like have been happening, especially in the last couple of years.
Obviously, I'm highly available on LinkedIn, the blockchain ecosystem.io platform. I can be reached at linda@dfmdata.com, and definitely happy to connect and collaborate and support the responsible adoption of emerging technologies and the commerce that can come out of that. So obviously the blockchain chamber is one that I'll continue to point people toward. We have an announcement forthcoming of the new leadership, so I'm really excited about that. And yeah, it's a good time to connect with good people and to have these kind of conversations, and not just keep them conversations, but that actually put the technology implementations in that do start bringing those positive changes that we're all looking for. So.
No, I subscribe and count on me, and it's very inspiring. And as well, I love your stories as well. And I think all this dedication that you've been putting to push this forward. Thank you so much, Linda. It's been an honor. It's been a long interview, but I think I think everyone find it so passionate as I've been doing. Okay, thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure, and thank you.